Hey girl, hey, welcome back to the Hey Girl, Hey podcast. Thank you everyone for joining. And today I have a special guest joining us today. Shakia Allen is with us. And Shakia does quite a few things that I think will be most beneficial for all of us and especially for our women out there. But I'd like to introduce her by Shakia Inspires. She's on Instagram and TikTok. And before I say anything else, I'd like to say, Shakia, thank you again for the opportunity to interview you as a guest on the Hey Girl, Hey podcast. So before I say anything else, I would like for you to personally introduce yourself and we'll get into this episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy, for allowing me to be here and to represent us in this moment. I am Shakia, the CEO of Shakia Inspires, where I am a transformational wellness curator, a mother, an author, an educator, an instructional technology specialist, and what I inspire women and empower them to do is to basically reconnect and reclaim themselves.
Okay, so that is definitely important. You and I were just having a brief conversation right before we started. I was just sharing with you the importance for me to just slow down and take my time just to reconnect with myself. But when it comes to slowing down and really listening to yourself, can you share with our listeners how did that begin to change the way you showed up for yourself in everyday life?
So that happened over time. That was not a sudden shift. That was not something that I ultimately planned. It was situations, circumstances, and events that led up to, okay, Shakia, let's slow it down. Let's think about what's happening. Let's reflect on what's going on in your life. And this was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, where I started to become very ill throughout the school year. I had the flu twice, I had strep throat once, my back went out, I had an ear infection, everything that you could think of, I
Yeah.
was getting.
Wow.
Towards the end of the school year, I ended up finding out that I had a lump in my breast. And I think that was the wake up call for me that I needed.
Hmm.
It was benign, so that was a good thing.
Wow.
And I remember my doctor looking at me in my eyes and saying, "Are you sure you want to continue in this field?"
Right.
And
Right.
I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. But then I also had a conversation with my principal, who was a male at the time, and I remember his words vividly. He said, "Miss Allen, you do realize that dis-ease promotes disease."
Wow.
Yes. And I think at that moment, this we had just finished, state testing, and it was in that moment where I was like, I think I need to resign.
Wow. Wow. Gosh,
Yes.
say that part again because that resonated with me. I had goosebumps. He said this ease
He said
prevents disease.
he said dis-ease.
Oh, this
So
ease.
yes, dis-ease. So DIS-EASE promotes disease.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Which is the same word without the hyphen.
Okay, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So at that moment, what resonated with you, or did at any point when you were trying to decide on what to do or how to do it, or how did you even get there? Did you ever have a sense of guilt? Because, and I ask that question because sometimes educators, and I can speak for educators because I am one, but when it comes to taking a day off from work or just slowing down or taking a half a day, a lot of times we don't do it because we're thinking about all the preparation that's needed just to take a day off, to take a
Absolutely.
mental health day. Was there any point that that came across your mind about, oh, I have so many things to do, or maybe I shouldn't do it right now, or you kind of went back and forth?
Oh, absolutely. That was a time where my marriage was on the rocks. Between the two of us, we had four kids, my three kids, his son. And the only thing I could think of was, how are things going? What will the income look like? And how are things going to get
Right.
paid? And, what's next? Who will I
Right.
be able to lean on? Type of thing. My kids were student athletes. They were involved in sports throughout the entire school year. And I didn't want there to be a situation where, because of what I was going through, that it prevented them from being a child. And so the guilt was real.
Yes, it is.
It was really,
Yes, it is.
really real. And I really struggled with that for a minute, but in the end, I knew that it was best for me to move forward with the resignation and to do what was best for my health, because then ultimately, if I continued on the path, and my physician even said this, she said, if you continue on the path that you're going to fully break down mentally, emotionally, and then physically. And she said, and
Wow.
then what? And that just stayed with me. And, I knew that I wanted to be there, being the loudest mom, screaming for my kids in the
Yeah,
stands, and
yeah.
being their number one cheerleader. So I then went ahead and, took that break, resigned, and decided that I had to show up for myself first, and
Right.
I wanted my kids to see that as well. I didn't
Yeah,
want them to see that the only thing that life meant was work, 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 and you don't have the time to take care of yourself.
absolutely. Yes. Yes. Wow. With that being said, oftentimes we think challenges or sickness or illness or stress, it resulted from a that then moment. But what I'm learning is there's always a root to where it all stemmed from. And so, can you share with us what your experience, because you talked about abandonment. Can you
Yes.
share that part of your story? And could that possibly be the root? Although, some time may have passed, years may have passed, but it also, the past and whatever the root is, can form our thinking. Can you share that story?
Absolutely, and it really does. A Many people don't realize, when we don't deal with those unhealed circumstances, situations, traumas in our lives from childhood, adolescence, that they will resurface in some shape, form, or fashion. And the abandonment that I dealt with not only felt like abandonment, but it was, to me, also rejection. And because of that, I continued to push through regardless.
Mm-hmm.
because I never wanted anyone else to feel the way that I felt, to feel abandoned, to feel rejected.
Yeah.
Not realizing that I was doing that to myself.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to that. I can relate to that personally, just with my own story. And so, once you identify that, how has your own personal story with abandonment, now that you become more aware, how has that shaped you as a woman or as a person?
It has, it took a while. It wasn't something that happened overnight. I really had to sit in my feelings with
Mhm.
myself alone.
Okay. Woo!
You know, those
Yes.
things that we are afraid to do because it's a real feeling. It's
Yes,
those
it
feelings
is.
that you don't want to confront. You know, it's
Yeah.
like when you were little and they talked about the boogeyman. No one wanted to see the boogeyman. Like, don't even
Okay.
speak the boogeyman's name.
Right, right.
But you had to confront it, you know, eventually in order to get over that fear. And that's what I had to do. I had to sit in it. I had to confront it. I had
Mm,
to let it, I had to just feel it
wow.
and realize that, okay, now that I'm feeling this, now that I know what it feels like,
Mm,
it's not as bad as I thought it would be. And this does not mean that my life ends right here.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so I started to go to therapy. That definitely assisted me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would reach out to my grandmother and my godmother for them to impart wisdom
Mm-hmm.
and use the tools and the strategies that my therapist shared with me. And one of those things was for me to reconnect to my inner child and to tell her the things that I needed to hear as an
Uh,
adult. And I was just amazed at
mm,
how that worked. I was like, wow, because, you know, the one person that we spend the most time with is ourselves.
oh, yeah.
And so if we're not reconnecting with ourselves and we're just connecting to others,
Mm,
then we're just extracting the energy that comes from them and not
mm.
the energy that's already within.
This is like a whole therapy session for me right now.
You said we was going to keep it real.
Yes, I did say we're going to keep it real because these are stories, that people need to hear, stories we need to tell. There's healing, there's power in stories. So, yes, I did say that. I love
Yes.
it. Yes. People often hear there's purpose in your pain. And when you're going through the pain, the discomfort, I'll be honest, that's not something I wanted to hear. There's purpose in your pain. Your pain isn't without a cause or a reason. I realized through my healing that that is so true. There is purpose in our pain. Can you share what does that actually mean to you from your lived experience?
Oh, man. So I was also one of those ones, Tracy. I was like, if one more person tells me that, I don't know, I'm I'm not fully healed yet. I'm still in the healing process. God is not done with me.
Let me tell you, you be like, hey, you're gonna catch these hands.
Listen,
No.
I think they coined the phrase now, holy hood. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
that, yes. Yes.
But
People be like, thank God I'm not who I used to be, or thank God I'm
yes,
healed from who I used to be, or,
yes,
I'm a Christian girl, but I still got a little hood in me.
yes, yes. But that one phrase right there, that one phrase just does something, or did, not anymore, but it
Yeah,
did
yeah,
something,
yeah.
to me, because like you said, you're not, and you never fully, healing is a daily process.
Yeah,
So, but there are things that, could trigger, you at any moment. And so
that's
that
right.
one phrase, I used to, side eye people and roll my eyes and
Like you
everything.
just don't know. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right, right. But to me, that phrase, there's purpose in your pain, means that whatever tried to take you out, whether it was mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally, or physically,
Yes.
are also the things that make you more compassionate.
Hmm.
It makes you more aware, definitely wiser, and it assists you with your ability to help you heal. We don't
Yes.
realize it at that time. And more than anything, it helps others heal. Because a
Yes.
lot of times we focus on our pain and not the lesson from the pain.
Ooh.
And that lesson is what we can provide others in
Yeah.
order for them to get through their pain as well.
That's right.
So, like from my lived experience, pain revealed where I was overextending myself,
Hmm.
abandoning myself, suppressing my emotions, and after sitting in those emotions and in those feelings and realizing that I was still in survival mode, I had
Hmm.
to figure out how I was going to get out of that situation or that mindset.
Yeah.
And so it ultimately taught me that I needed boundaries.
Hmm.
I needed to be soft with myself and I needed
Yes.
to reconnect with myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while I would never put pain on a pedestal,
Mm-hmm.
I can say that it taught me how to be more fearless and step out of my comfort zone
Yeah.
and confront things that I never thought that I could confront or to move forward from.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made me more courageous.
Ooh.
And even with that, like during that time 11 years ago, God had placed a several titles in my spirit
Hmm.
and told me to that I was going to write a book, several
Mm.
books.
Ooh.
And so from that pain, I did move forward with that particular title, which I created a journal.
Hmm.
So there is purpose in our pain.
Gosh, girl, let me tell you, I love that. And I'm sitting here just telling myself how I can connect and totally relate to what you're saying. And I really hope that the listeners as well, if they have their own personal story, their own personal journey, that they too can accept the fact that even if they're going through challenges, even though it may be uncomfortable, maybe you feel embarrassed or ashamed, that there is purpose in that. And like you said earlier, nobody wants to hear that when you're going through it, but just the thought that that keyword right there, through, it doesn't mean you're staying in
Yes.
it. You're
Yes.
going through it. So
Yes.
we hear the cliche, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But that is true. It is, there is light at the end of the tunnel because we're only going through what we're
Yes.
experiencing at the moment. So, I and I'm laughing because it's powerful. It is so, and there's so much truth in what you're saying, so much validation in what you're saying, because it relates to not just women, but I think people in general when we're
Oh,
going through
absolutely.
things.
Yes, absolutely. I totally
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah. I know you shared too that, or you said it a little bit in when you were sharing that you were a woman, you overgave, you overextended yourself. So
Yes.
compared to where you are now to who you were, what's the difference? You shared that a little bit. Can you go a little more in depth on where you are now compared to where you were?
Yes. I I would say I would start with the boundaries that I have now that
Hmm.
I did not. I didn't I didn't even know what that word meant outside of a sport.
Ah.
When it was broken down to me in therapy, I was like, oh, so basically, I shouldn't say yes to everything. I should start
That part.
saying no
No.
to
With a
this.
capital
Yes,
N.
yes. And not only that, because, everything in life comes in stages. So
Right.
even learning how to set boundaries came in a stage
Hmm.
because I had to identify the things that I needed boundaries for first. Then I had to set them and I had to determine how I was going to set them, who I was going to set them with. It was
Yeah,
it
it's so much to process,
yes,
but it's
yes.
needed. It's
It is
needed.
it is needed. And so I start picturing this or going through this process as if I was rolling out the red carpet for myself.
Ooh, girl.
And at the end of that carpet, I would be able to flawlessly walk down without anyone tugging on me from the left to the right,
Hmm.
calling my name, or where I had to stop and get distracted and run to them or run to whomever
Hmm.
and just focus on me on this red carpet. Or in my
Yes.
case, it was purple because that's my favorite color.
Hey, purple is royalty,
Yes,
okay?
yes, yes. So,
Yes.
yeah. So that was the biggest change.
Hmm.
And once I determined those boundaries, it was and set those boundaries, then I had to say, Shakia, you don't have to explain anything.
Hmm.
Because not only was a overextender, but I was an over explainer. I wanted
Yes.
people to know that I'm still there for you. I still want to be there for you, but I'm so
Yeah.
tired. I'm sorry. I just have to. I didn't have to do that. That is not
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first the same. I was an over explainer, and I'm still working on that. And I
Yes,
used to try to justify it by saying, well, I'm an educator, and in my profession, I tend to be thorough in my explaining. I tend to be
yes,
thorough in my teaching because I want people to understand. And but it really wasn't. I could not use teaching. as a way to justify my over explaining. And I
Yes.
remember some years ago, I was identified as codependent. I had never heard of that word. And gosh, this was years ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
did my own little research on it, but never really sought any help to truly understand it and what it meant and why I was doing it. But as time went on and events happened in my life, I truly was codependent,
Mm-hmm.
looking for validation,
Mm-hmm.
to be approved of,
Mm-hmm.
to be accepted, to show that I can fit in, that I can adapt. And you don't realize how those things can be detrimental to your mental and emotional well being,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
So, I thank God for healing.
Yes. Yes.
Thank God for healing. Thank God that um, uh, we as women are still have our youthfulness to live life, live it in a abundant way, live it in a purpose for ourselves, and then to be able to pass that wisdom and knowledge on to other people. I always say
Absolutely.
that is the blessing in one of the blessings in all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that because if we can help this next generation not not hold on to toxicity because that's
Mm.
ultimately what it is.
Yeah,
But no
absolutely.
one told us how to release it or how to keep attracting it because
Hmm.
you're repeating cycles.
Yeah.
And so our stories, when we tell them, because I'm going to be honest, for years, I thought I was the only one that was going through anything like this.
Yes. Yes.
And it wasn't until I would hear the stories or speak to my godmother, speak to a my best friend, speak to another parent, and they're like, "Oh, you
Hmm.
too?"
All right.
And it was like, "Okay, wow." Not that it was a breath of fresh air that I was going through any of that, but it was a release. Like, she understands. Someone
Mm-hmm.
understands what I'm going through.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, well, first it's wonderful that you had people in your circle, in your village that you could openly share it with, and then they were willing to openly tell their story and you all could
Yes.
have that conversation. Sometimes some of us don't have that, and out of fear of being judged or being labeled, we don't say anything.
Yes.
People tend to hold it in. And I'll tell you this, I remember, not just for myself, but being around friends when we were younger, if you did certain things, you approached someone, you wanted to talk, and they might call you fast, or you're doing too much,
Mm-hmm.
or just ignore it. A lot of words or phrases that
Yes.
dismiss you in an emotional way. And so, like you said, you can feel like you're the only one going through it because you don't really have anyone where you can openly express how you feel, or someone that can help you make sense of what you're going through.
Right.
So wow.
Yep.
So for the person listening who feels like they're carrying everything alone, what would you want them to know about leaning on support?
That it is needed. It is necessary. It's
Mhm.
because so many of us have been conditioned to believe that we are stronger when we hold it together, when we
Mm,
figure it out by ourselves, when we keep pushing through no matter how heavy life feels.
mm-hmm.
And I can remember one instance before, after my first divorce and before I remarried, and it was just my three kids and I, and they were babies. The two youngest ones, they're about 14 months apart, so they weren't even, I think, one, so a toddler and an infant, and then the oldest was maybe 6 at the time.
Mm,
And I remember the thought that I had that maybe life would be better just without the four of us in it.
hmm.
And it was a quick thought, but
Yeah,
it was a
it's a
real
real thought.
it's a real thought.
Yes, it is.
And I went in that moment. I remember calling my godmother and asking her if I can come see her, you know, with the kids. She didn't know why. I just wanted to be around her.
Yeah.
And I knew at that time that leaning on support, especially when it's genuine, when it's unconditional, when it's non judgmental,
Hmm.
doesn't make you weak. It makes
That
you
part.
human.
Yes.
It makes you feel seen. It makes you feel heard.
Yeah.
And some of the strongest moments throughout my journey came from when I stopped pretending that I was fine and allowed myself to receive the support and care from
Mm-hmm.
others. So I would definitely tell them, and it may just be one person that they can
Right.
confide in, that
Right.
they can just be themselves without judgment, and just make sure that they let someone know that, hey, I'm feeling it today. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not doing so hot, I'm not doing so well, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, even if you
Mm-hmm.
can't create those words, if those words can't come out, I
Yeah.
would even suggest creating a code word. That way they know
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, okay, I'm here for you. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Especially like you said, excuse me, finding that one person. You may be in the midst of many people, but not everyone deserves I believe deserves to know what you're going through. You really have to know who has your best interests at
Yes.
heart.
Yes.
And it may not be your mother, it may not be your sister, it may not be an auntie. You
Yep.
have to find your person,
Yep.
and knowing that they have enough in them to listen to you.
Yes.
You know, because sometimes we can pour, and I'm generally speaking, we can pour out to someone, but their cup may be on empty as well. And they
Absolutely.
may have good intentions of listening to help, but because they may be broken and not even sharing their own journey, it can be challenging. And I say that from experience as well.
And
You know,
I'm
so I
glad.
always, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'm glad that you brought that up because I have a cousin. We share a lot of things with each other,
Mm-hmm.
but the one thing that we both do, we ask each other, "Do you have the capacity?"
Yes.
Because, like
Yeah.
you said, sometimes we're not with each other
Yeah.
24/7. We don't know what
Yeah.
the other one is going through. So
Yeah.
if it does come to a point where we feel like life is overwhelming and it's too much, but we need
Mm-hmm.
to speak to each other,
Mm-hmm.
we do make sure we're like, do you have the capacity? Do you have the capacity?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We could go
Yeah.
ahead, we could talk, you know.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it is essential to make sure that your person does have the capacity to hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree, on that. Just finding your person.
Yeah.
Someone you can be there for them or they can be there for you or both. Is just so important. And I just want women to realize or accept that you are not alone. So many people, so many women have not shared their story. They have not shared their journey. And
Right.
it could be because they are still healing. When
Yes.
I was going through my journey, I remember a friend saying, "You should tell your story," but I could not because I wanted to share my story from a healing perspective so that I could help someone else. And had I told my story from when I was broken, it would have resulted in me retelling my story again and again and again from a hurting place.
Yes.
And that's not what I wanted, because, like I said, I wanted my story to help. I wanted it to help someone heal. I wanted my story to come from a place where it could give other women hope to know again that they're just going through it and that there is something better on the other side once they go through it.
Absolutely.
So we talk about us as women now, but oftentimes my heart thinks about our young girls today, going through challenges, and many of the challenges are not new. They're familiar because uh, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
But oftentimes, our young girls are not equipped to handle challenges. They may seek validation in ways that could hurt or harm them
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, and physically. I'm not downplaying social media because it has a lot of great benefits,
Right.
but our young girls have that extra layer of weight with social media, trying to, again, fit in or trying to measure themselves up by what they see.
Right.
And so now my question to you is, for the young ladies, for a younger woman still trying to figure life out on their own, what do you want her to know about her worth and her need for love and guidance? And I know that's a deep one.
It is. It really is because I think about the issues I went through being a teenager,
Mm,
and this was without social media,
right.
and feeling that life was hard, it was challenging. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was exciting. You know, you were a teenager, but
Yeah.
there were things that I had to go through, that I went through, that, you know, teenagers shouldn't have gone through.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about this question, I would definitely want her to know her worth
Mm,
is not tied to her past.
right.
It's not tied to any challenges that she will overcome,
Mm-hmm.
or tied to anything that she carries, or that the struggles that she's hiding,
Yes.
but that she is worthy simply because she exists. And I wish I heard those words.
Yeah,
That you are worthy
you are
because
worthy.
you are
Yeah.
already here, because you are you.
Hmm.
And I will also say, which, so my children are 27, 22, and 21.
Hmm.
And I tell them all the time, it's okay to receive guidance. It's okay to ask
Yeah.
for help.
Yeah.
So ask for that help. Ask for that guidance. It's okay to not fit in.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feel that that's where you're supposed to be at that particular time, it's okay. It's okay
Yes.
for you to make your own path.
Mm.
It's okay for you to have a small circle. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we see in on social media people that have thousands of followers. It's okay for you to have one, three,
Yeah.
or 3,000.
Yes.
As
Wow.
long as you're still yourself.
Hmm. Don't lose yourself.
And I was just about to say, the most important thing is not to lose
Lose
yourself
yourself.
trying to become something that you aren't, or become someone that you aren't.
Or becoming someone people say or people
Yes.
think you should
Think
be.
that
You
you
know, you
should.
should do your hair like this. You should wear
Yes.
these clothes. You should do your makeup like this. You
Yes.
shouldn't go here. You shouldn't go there. You shouldn't associate with these people, but you should
Yep.
associate with these. Yeah,
Yes.
and you know that right there is so overstimulating.
Yes.
So overstimulating. And like you said early in our conversation, learning to be by yourself,
Yes.
that can be very challenging because then you have oftentimes the silence. You don't
Yep.
have the noise and the distractions of people and things, and you have to sit right there and marinate in who you are as an individual. And then when you have to do that, sometimes it can scare a person, and
Yes.
they end up running right back to those same things, people, situations that were pulling them away from them learning who they are as individuals.
Yep. That is so true. And I had a family, actually, I believe my daughter was in the Air Force and she came home to visit.
Hmm.
And I remember her saying, no wonder you like being home. It's so
Ah,
peaceful, it's so quiet. And it was so hilarious because I was like, huh, so you noticed, type of thing. But even in that moment, her and I ended up just sitting there in silence, but
hmm.
enjoying one another's company,
Yes.
you know.
And how rich is that? How rich is that?
Right, exactly, exactly. So I would also say to the young women out there, learn how to protect your peace. You know,
Hmm.
trust your voice, trust your gut, listen to that, and just never forget that you deserve unconditional love.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And, you know, I'm not ashamed to say if it does not fit what you believe you deserve, do
Hmm.
not entertain it.
Mm-hmm.
Do not, you know, and don't get me wrong. I think as human beings, sometimes our expectations exceed
Yes.
what we are asking from a person.
Yes.
But the expectation should come from for ourselves first. And
Right.
when you can identify your own expectation for you, Are you able to give yourself what you are expecting from others? I
Right.
just truly believe you have to start there first. When we have expectations from other people, that is when we can be let down or feel let down or disappointed and have all these different emotions that can spiral us right back to ground zero.
Yes.
So, I just encourage people to first, like you said, start with yourself. Start
Yeah.
with yourself. Learn how to appreciate, honor, respect, love,
Yes.
laugh at yourself. And sometimes people share just little things to start doing that if sitting at home in silence is just too much for a person to start with. Simple things, take yourself out to dinner or lunch or
Yes.
breakfast.
Yep.
Take yourself out for coffee or to the movies or to an art museum or for a walk.
Yes. Definitely.
There's so many things you can do by yourself
Yep.
that can empower and uplift yourself and begin your healing journey.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even, a lot of people think, and I tell my kids this all the time. If you want to create a good habit and you want it to stick, you want it to stay, it is best to start small. So
Yes.
even if you have to start with a 5 minute walk, five
Yeah.
minutes of journaling,
Yeah.
5 minutes of
Oh,
stillness,
yeah.
5 minutes of going to the grocery store by yourself or walking into a restaurant by yourself, just looking
Mhm.
around. You may not
Yeah.
even, that first time, you may not have the opportunity or the desire to even sit or, want to dine in. You just
Hmm.
needed to get out the car and walk in,
Yeah.
and just to know that that was okay. And the next time, maybe you will sit, and maybe you will sit
Mhm.
just to get some water,
Right.
start with
Right.
those small steps until it becomes comfortable and natural for you.
Yeah. 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 And while you were talking, I was thinking too, and put your phone on do not disturb.
Yes, yes,
Turn the ringer off or
yes,
just power your phone off.
yes.
Like you said, even if it's for 5 minutes,
Yep.
just for 5 minutes. I love that. I love that. I, well, I always tell people I can talk forever, on and on and on. I just remember when I was little, my dad would say, "Oh my gosh, you talk so much. When will you stop?" And I see why. I see why now, Dad, why I talk so much
Right, right, right.
for a purpose.
I was gonna say
I
he did not know what your purpose was.
right. I do want to I do want to say thank you so much, but I don't want to end this episode without you mentioning your books. How can our listeners purchase a book or have access to your materials that you have written and created, as well as, again, your social media?
Oh, awesome. I I want to thank you for allowing me to share a part of me, because that is what this part of this journey is about for me,
Mm,
is just allowing myself to be more vulnerable, more
yes.
open, as I continue to reconnect with myself and just reclaim the things that I've been desiring in life.
Yeah.
And so I can be located on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Shakia Inspires, and that is CHIKIYA Inspires. And for my journal, it will be released on Monday, May 25th.
Yes.
Yes. which was done on purpose. So not only is it Memorial Day, but it will be my 47th birthday.
Yes.
So that is my gift to myself.
I love it.
And the title of the journal is Are You Ready for Growth? A
Mm.
guided journal to exhale, reconnect, reignite, and reclaim yourself in 30 days. And it can be purchased on Amazon as of
Yes.
May 25th.
Okay. Wow. Get the title one more time.
The title, Are You Ready for Growth?
Okay. All right. Well, listeners, you heard it here on the Hey Girl Hey podcast with Shakia. I just thank you so much that we were able to connect. And this is not the end. This is
No,
just the
ma'am.
beginning of us. So many wonderful things, great things happening, whether it's together or in our separate entities, to just be a beacon of light for our women, for our young girls as well. Right? Yes. So before we close, remember this. Your pain is not pointless. Every challenge, every tear, every setback carries the potential to shape something greater within you. And sometimes the very thing that tried to break you becomes the thing that builds your strength, your voice, and your purpose. So don't give up in the middle of the process. Keep growing, keep healing, keep showing up for yourself. There's purpose in your pain, and your story, it still has power. So until next time, keep walking in truth, grace, and purpose. This is the Hey Girl, Hey podcast, reminding you that even in the hard moments, you are becoming who you are meant to be.